What's going on, everybody? We are back here on a Friday. Hopefully, everybody's having a great start to the Friday. Hopefully, some of you have Friday off and have already kicked the weekend off. Happy opening day or home opener to your Red Hot Giants. If you are going, I'm jealous. Just wasn't able today to be there, but hopefully can get out to a game soon. So I wanted to jump on here and talk about, I think it was kind of mind blowing is like we looked at the entire offseason for the 49ers and for the entire NFL. And I think one of the things that I'm sure everybody runs into is you kind of get to a point where you're like, God, the offseason's dragging, like it's going so slow. God, we're so far away from games and national football and some of the bigger events. And then you wake up one morning and it's 3 weeks till the draft. And we have kind of the final pro days wrapping up here today with Colorado and a few others. But man, we are almost to the draft, which is just, obviously the biggest landmark pretty much event in the offseason for the NFL. And as it's been talked about, ad nauseum now, like one of the biggest drafts of the 49ers that I can remember, like in terms of importance and what they're trying to still accomplish and stay competitive. So I thought it was a pretty good idea. Everyone kind of keeps talking in circles, and I'm guilty of it as well, but kind of runs away with the fact of like, oh my God, here's this mock draft, and oh, this guy would look really good, and that guy would look really good, and what about this? What about that? And they could take a corner, pick 11, like just take great players, or receiver. I know we took one last year, but it's a need. But I thought it was important to kind of really just, like in anything, take a step back and really break it down from where does the depth chart sit today? What does this team really need? And it's not to say, again, that this is where they have to go with pick 11, but you have to start looking at these things, right? I know the old adage is like best player available all the time. Yes, that is true. But to a certain extent, you still have to fill holes on your team. Right. So, draft is really fun in that regards. Some teams prioritize it. Sometimes the stars align and your needs align with best player on your board, and bam, you hopefully hit a home run with that pick. And so I wanted to kind of go through, the depth charts, both offense and defense for the Niners, and kind of just really get into it a little bit here. So I've obviously, everyone's got their opinion on the team and the roster. And I'm going to go through mine here shortly. So I think when you look at the roster, first off, and for the one thing that I think obviously has to be into consideration is, glass half full is Brandon Ayuk, maybe midseason is back ready to rock. I think you have to prepare that he's not going to contribute this year, right? This is a guy coming off a significant knee injury who literally has not jogged yet. He is not working out. He's not running. The season starts, what's crazy, 3-4 months is when camp begins. I think it's very, and it's not to say even when he is running, like that's great, right? Like that's step one. Now we're going to turn it up a little bit. We're going to run harder. We're going to begin to introduce cutting. We're going to begin to introduce wide receiver, running routes. Like, dude, this process is going to take a long time. Then it's not even talking about, okay, cool. You are running routes maybe at 50%, 70%, 90%. Hey, and guess what? Now we're going to introduce contact, right? Like there is a long way to go for Brandon Ayuk to get back out on the field. I think you have to scratch him off of the depth chart this year, and anything he gives you is a bonus. Like, I know that's crazy and that sucks, but that's the reality. And I think to hit a quick pause button, the one thing this franchise really needs is a dose of reality. And I think hopefully they got it last year, right? They've been living in this echo chamber, and kind of rightfully so, that they've been to the NFC Championship game 3 times in Kyle's, prior to this year, 7 years, 2 Super Bowl trips where they've come basically within minutes of taking home the trophy. Like they've had leads in the fourth quarter. Of course, they felt like their roster was fantastic, but man, last year was a real wake-up call for them. And I think Kyle admitting the fact that they had gone into the 22 and 23 drafts with like yeah, we don't really have any needs. Like, we do not need one player out of this draft, really. So let's just like take a kicker. We'll take a luxury pick as like a backup third string tight end who's not even on the roster. We'll take Jair Brown. Like, it makes sense now. Like, they were just so kind of, with a lack of a better term, full of themselves. They really sat there and said, yeah, we're the best team in the league. Outside of a few bad bounces and some bad luck, we have 2 Super Bowl rings, and we're the dynasty of the 2020s. And it's like, yeah, but you don't. And it was, let's just be honest here. Without Brock Purdy, any other franchise, Kyle and John are gone. And you just can't convince me otherwise. There's no way they get back to that second Super Bowl. Trey Lance, that was the second top 10 pick that they've swung and missed on. Like, man, they've had the highest of highs in a sense, or close to it, but boy, have they had some lows. So I hope they finally are taking this seriously. And I don't mind Jed being like, you know what, we need to clean house a little bit and get our house back in order and get back on track, because it ain't working. Like, you guys have just totally inflated the situation to a point where it's unrealistic. And you guys haven't won a ring. It didn't work. And I know fans freak out about that. Media people freak out about that. I know they've been very successful. They've had very successful years. Remind me again where those Super Bowl loss banners hang in Levi's. Like, that's just the truth of it. I know that sucks and that's hard to hear. In 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, is anyone going to remember the 2023 Super Bowl run that ended up, Mahomes beating them in overtime? No one's going to talk about the 49ers in that game. It's going to be Mahomes won an overtime game. Like, no one talks about in the 80s, the Bengals losing. And it was like, oh yeah, the Bengals are a really good team. No, people talk about the 49ers because they won the rings. No one talks about Denver being like, wow, they were really good. They talk about Elway and the teams were good. But the Bronco teams they talk about are the 90s Broncos teams that won the rings. No one talks about the Broncos in the 80s that went and got absolutely punked in the Super Bowl and lost, 55-10? Rings and trophies are all that matter, and all that stand the test of time, right? Like, again, in the 90s, people talk about the Niners. People talk about the Cowboys. They don't talk about the Bills, who went to 4 Super Bowls and lost 4 Super Bowls. Like, the Bills are never brought up when you go up to a random person in a bar and you're like, hey, who were the best football teams in the 90s? That's not how it works. So I think this wake-up call is a good thing. Resetting the board is a good thing when we talk about where the needs are. So kind of got off on a tangent there. Yeah, I think receiver is a big problem. It really is. And what's crazy is they've invested so much in the position. The headlines with Debo moving on this offseason. Look at the roster, man. Like, okay, let's just go through it. Yeah, Pearsall and Jennings are really solid. Where does that duo rank in terms of receiver duos in the NFL? Now, I am a big believer that you do not need a superstar receiver to win big and win possibly a ring. But this ain't it, man. Ricky Pearsall, yeah, he looked good at the last few games. I think he can build on that, and he's going to be a really solid contributor. Jauan Jennings had a fantastic season, cemented himself as probably the best receiver outside of Ayuk on this team, and one of the best in the league when it comes to reliability, toughness, all that kind of stuff. But holy moly, behind that, I'm not even going to get into the third stringers. Russell Gage, not going to make the team. Trent Taylor, we know what he is at this point. And then Isaiah Hodgins, I actually like quite a bit, but I don't think you can go into the season saying we're counting on Isaiah Hodgins. Demarcus Robinson had a pretty good season last year, but we know what he is, man. At this point, he is a 4th/5th receiver on any roster in the NFL. Reliable vet, solid, I guess, but I don't know, man. Like, that guy's not, getting me out of my chair usually on Sundays, to cheer and get excited. He's going to give you 1 to 2 catches, probably a game, and be where he needs to be probably on routes. That's not exactly, ringing endorsement. Tariq Owens, look, everybody can get hyped about him. I'm not counting him for anything other than a camp body until I see it. Jacob Cowing, I think they invested a 4th-round pick in him last year. I was excited about Jacob Cowing because of his speed and quickness, but it was very clear, like, they did not. They used him as a punt returner and hardly at all at receiver. Even with all the injuries towards the end of the year down the stretch, like, didn't really see what the kid's got. Now, maybe that's just Kyle feeling a little bit better about him in his second year, but man, you got to add somebody a piece or two in the draft here at this receiver room that I think is more dynamic than what you see here in this kind of second stringers. On to offensive line. I've been the biggest proponent of this team needs to finally invest significant capital in the offensive line. When you look at, let's just start with the starters. Trent Williams, obviously fantastic, but he's 37 now, 38 years old. We've seen injuries pile up the last few years. Like, can you really go into this season saying, yeah, we got him for 18 games and then hopefully more in the playoffs? I just don't know if you can put that bucket, lock that bet in, right? So, yeah, you need some depth behind Trent. Ben Bartch, look, I thought it was a really good re-signing. I thought he was really good with the Niners last year when he played. But that second part of the sentence is the biggest concern, which nobody wants to talk about. This guy's never stayed healthy for a full season in the NFL. That's why Jacksonville moved on. It wasn't because he's not a good player. It's because you can't pay a guy and put him into your starting offensive line when you know he's going to be there for 6 or 7 out of the 18 games. So major concern for me there at left guard. Jake Brendel, look, it's a hot button issue of the day, or the week, I'm sorry. He is what he is. He is a veteran that is going to make the correct calls based on what Kyle is asking for in the protection. He is below average and when it comes to physical ability. His best attribute is being able to move, obviously, and get to the second level or pull when needed and get those get into position for reach blocks. But just watch the film. Anyone that wants to fight and argue this, like, I'm more than happy to jump on a stream with. He never resets the line of scrimmage. He's never moving forward and pushing forward. I've seen multiple highlights this week where people are like, look, he got to his man. He did. And the rest of the offensive line is 3 yards ahead of him because he's getting pushed back because he has no strength. So you can know where you need to be as much as you want. Like, a corner can know exactly what he needs to do and recognize routes. But if he runs a 4.8, 4.9, he's just going to lose because receivers are much faster. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So, yeah, I think Jake Brendel needs to go, or at the very least, they need to draft a center to compete with him on day one, because I just don't see it. Matt Hennessy, Drake Nugent, I was excited about last year, but similar to the Jacob Cowing thing, like, they weren't even willing to experiment with him in meaningless week 17 and 18 games last year. I just don't know what that means. Like, you didn't have to worry about getting Brock Purdy hurt. He was already hurt. So you're telling me Josh Dobbs, who was going to leave, you knew he was going to. You couldn't have put Drake Nugent in for week 18 and be like, look, kid, I know you probably don't quite know everything. We're going to run pretty vanilla. I just want to see what you got. What do you got out there? They didn't do it. I just don't see it, man. I just don't think they like. I don't know. If it were me, I talked about this last year. I would have unloaded the absolute rookies, even the practice squad last year in that week 18 game, and basically tanked it and said, look, I'm going to see what we got. Do we have any diamonds here? So back to it. Bartch, Brendel, I think are definite pieces that need to be upgraded. Pooney, obviously rock solid. Colton McKivitz, look, he's better than people think, but he is what you pay for. He is a middle tier to bottom tier right tackle in the NFL, starting tackle. So he's a starting offensive lineman. I think he's totally fine if he's your 5th best offensive lineman. The problem right now is he is like your 3rd best offensive lineman. And that concerns me. It concerns me because we've seen in the past, like, he needs significant help when he has an elite pass rusher lined up across him. That changes your blocking scheme, both pass protection and in the run game. Like, you continue to run that out there and don't look for upgrades. Like, you're eventually going to lose in big matchups. And we've seen it happen against the Eagles. We've seen it against the Chiefs. Like, teams will take advantage of these 3 players that are highlighted when there are opportunities and they have the pieces to do so. So, in my opinion, you're about to go pay your quarterback $55 million a year. Rule number one is you find the quarterback, you pay the quarterback, you protect the quarterback. Like that's literally football 101. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Bill Parcells. His philosophy on building a team is get the quarterback, protect the quarterback, sack the quarterback. Like that is how you build a winning football team. They think they got two of them, but for whatever reason, this team doesn't feel the need to do number two, which is protect the quarterback. So Barsh, Brendel, McKivitz, for me, are all very grave concerns. George Kittle, fantastic. Luke Farrell, I think, is a very solid player. I think he's more than just a traditional blocking tight end. I know that's how Jacksonville used him, but they also had Evan Ingram, so they needed him for blocking. I still think you can add a third tight end in this draft later on, and there's some pieces and guys that I talked about in my last post on Twitter. Purdy, obviously, and Mac Jones are solid. They're there. McCaffrey. Here's another one that I'm going to toss out there that I don't think a lot of people maybe agree with. I'm just not sold behind Christian McCaffrey. I'm really not. I don't think Isaac Guerendo is a very instinctive runner. He's big. He's fast. He's also a guy that got injured multiple times last year in camp and then again throughout the season. Patrick Taylor, no, he's not the guy. I'm sorry to break everybody's hearts. I really like Izzy Abaconda. However, he falls into the Drake Nugent, Jacob Cowing bucket. Week 18, there was no reason to not get him 5-6 carries. I had someone come at me and be like, yeah, he was like very new to the system and didn't really know the offense. Dude, you play running back. I understand that. I understand you don't know the pass protections. I know you might not understand all these things. Dude, you're rolling out your backup quarterback in a meaningless Week 18 game. Kyle Shanahan's not even calling plays. You are running the most basic vanilla offense that this team has run in multiple years. Just run power right, power left, zone left, zone right. Izzy, here's the ball. Go find a hole and get up the field. Like, come on. So again, he's just another guy that I think I think there could be something there. They don't. They just don't. You would have seen it last year if they thought, damn, this kid has some juice. Like this kid's got some get up. Let's see what he can do. They just didn't do it. So with Guerendo's injury history, my concerns at least, I think you absolutely have to get a running back in this draft. And you have to get a fairly good / high pick. And by high pick, I mean 3rd, 4th round. I think you got to get a guy because we don't know what McCaffrey can do health-wise. I think it's up there. I think there's a lot of concerns on the offensive side of the ball. So kind of showing this again, you look at it, I think they need to add a receiver. I think they need to add a running back. And I think they need to add at least 2 pieces on the offensive line if it's not for depth at the very least. So that's 4 needs right there, in my opinion. Now we move to the defensive side of the ball where, there's concerns, guys. Let's start it up top. I don't think you can count on Drake Jackson whatsoever. They even said so the other day. The defensive line normally has 8 to 10 guys, I think, active on game day. They have 5 guys, 6 guys maybe, that are decent rotational guys. So you have at least 3 needs on the defensive line that you need to go address. You need 2, 3 defensive tackles at least. I don't think that they are going to also just use the draft. Because once the draft hits, compensatory picks, from my understanding, I think go out the window. So you don't have to give any up if you sign a free agent. I think they're going to go and take 2, 3 guys here at the defensive tackle position and possibly a defensive end, which they need. And then they're going to go pick up somebody else or another 2 guys on the free agency wire. So when you look at it, defensive line is a major concern here. Elliott, Anderson, there's no way you can roll into the season with even 2 of these guys starting, let alone 3. There's just no way. You have to go get a defensive tackle or defensive end. And I think that's where they're going in the first round, personally. and we'll get into some of my favorites in another show, but I think they upgrade defensive tackle. I think they upgrade defensive end significantly in this draft. I just think they do. Linebacker, look, I thought D. Winters played a lot better last year. I thought he was significantly improved from the year before. We know Fred Warner is fantastic, but man, D. Winters is another guy that gets banged up and hurt. Like, go watch the games. I feel like I see like every couple series he gets dinged and has to come out, or, you know, gets his bell rung and he's being evaluated for a concussion. And it's like, you just can't have that, you know? So I think you definitely have to add a linebacker here in the draft. I know I didn't highlight it. I kind of forgot to do that. But I think you definitely have to add a linebacker. Again, I like D. Winters, but you have to be available in this league. You have to be able to stay healthy. And D. Winters has not been able to do that yet. Jalen Graham and Tatum Bethune, we don't really know what they have. Maybe the Niners like them more than people know because they're in the building with them and see them out in practice for the last few years. But Luke Gifford's not it. He's a special teams guy, much needed special teams guy, but he's not it from a perspective of, playing 3-down football for the Niners on defense. DB, Trey Brown, good signing, I thought, but there's no way you can roll into the season, I don't think, with this corner depth. Trey Brown, Darrell Luter, who we've been hearing about for a while now, haven't seen him. Trey Avery and Saran Neal. Like, yeah, man, I like Renardo Green. I like Demo, obviously. Malik Mustafa had a very good season last year, but holy crap, behind that, like, if you just go from J.R. Brown, Trey Brown, Luter, Grant, Pennock, Avery, Neal, beyond that, Odom, Mahoney, Lucas, like, holy crap, they have some serious problems in the defensive backfield. I know everybody looks at it, it's like Green, Lenore, and Mustafa, and I get it. You're not going to have like 4 Hall of Famers back there, but like, dude, they are one injury to Renardo Green or hell, even Mustafa from like, okay, you are now turning to a 1-year vet, or I'm sorry, a vet that is on a 1-year prove-it deal for like basically league minimum. And there's a reason why those teams moved on from him. You know, Richie Grant, like the Atlanta Falcons could not wait to get an upgrade last year by signing Simmons and basically pushing him to the bench after starting for 2 years. You know, when he signed with the Niners, like, it was like as if, you know, when the Niners cut Devondre Campbell, like, Falcons fans could not be happier when Richie Grant was moved on from. And then Jason Pinnock, like one of the lowest graded safeties in pass coverage in the league last year. The New York Giants are absolutely abysmal on defense. And like, they were very happy, not very happy maybe, but like, they didn't match a 1-year, like $3 million deal to bring Pinnock back. Your defense is that bad. And if he is that good or, you know, a significant piece, like, you're telling me they wouldn't have paid $3 million to bring him back? Like, guys, let's just be honest here. Like, these two guys are not very good football players. I think they're going to be very good for us on special teams, but man, if these guys have to start significant time, they've got problems. And we just talked about it from a corner perspective. Luter, Brown, Trey Tomlinson, like Chase Lucas, Saran Neal, man, like, for a team that can't seem to stay healthy, is putting a lot of eggs in the basket of we stay healthy. Like, we're going to stay healthy this year because the depth is just completely bad. I mean, look at the second string players on this defense, like all the way down, Givens, Davis, all the way to Gifford, Luter, Pennock, Saran Neal. Like, they need starter help and they need significant depth help, which is why at the end of the day, in my opinion, 49ers like have to trade back from 11. You've got to trade back if there's a partner there. And honestly, I'd be totally comfortable moving into the bottom 5-7 picks of the first round. Hell, I would potentially even be okay getting out of the first round if that meant we could get a haul of picks in the second or third rounds, because there are so many needs on this team. So that's my opinion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Feel free to drop me a comment if you disagree, if there's anybody I missed. And we'll talk about, in the next few shows as we get closer to the draft, my favorite players at each position, and hopefully have some guests here coming up as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Everybody have a great weekend. Later.